Welcome to Weston Nursery's succulent trough planting. This is something that we kind of come up with indoor-outdoor function. These guys here, I didn't put any drainage holes in here. So it's one of those that can be outside on the deck, full sun. Otherwise you can bring it inside for the winter. The biggest thing that I teach everyone is overwatering. Succulents will rot very quickly if it gets overwatered. So I always tell people use like a tablespoon because you get bored before you overwater. So that very good thing to start off with. So what I did is I grabbed the cactus soil. When you deal with different types of plants, certain plants have bigger root systems and some have smaller root systems. The succulents, if you pull these out, they're very fine, and there's not a whole lot of those guys. So when you look at the cactus succulent soil, it's very fine, okay? If you look at regular potting soil, there's a lot more into it, and it holds a little bit more moisture, and you don't really want that with the succulents. So has anyone done any planting of any sort, of annuals, perennials? Okay.
Yeah,
So
we have a rock and veggie garden already.
My background is floral. So there's always a couple little things that you look at as far as designing. Odd numbers, high, you like work on the triangle shape. So if you were thinking of where you're gonna put this, do you want a high point on one end versus the other? Do you want the high point in the middle? So like, I usually try to put the middle for the height, because visually it makes it look longer. But like if you were going to put it on, like I have a cutout window in the house where it's a little shelf and you can put something on it. I always put the tallest, closest away from me and then go short, and it makes that window just look a lot more open. So it's kind of like, think about where you're going to put it, and then you can design into it. So what we're going to do first of all is fill the trough half full with the potting soil. And then we're going to put in, I'm a visual person, so I'm like, I don't just start putting stuff in. I kind of put things in front of the place to say, okay, how am I going to, how do I want it put into the container? Because it's kind of hard to put things in and then rip it out back and forth. So I always kind of say, okay, this is, do I like that look? How am I gonna, do I want to change it up to get the colors? So like, I picked two things that, how this one pulls the color out of this one. So I kind of almost want those separate, and it also makes it on the longer side. You guys got two special ones, which is cool. So this is when it's way too big for the pot, okay? So when we go to plant these, you're gonna plant it sideways, but at an angle. So you're gonna put the hole over here and put it down, but the plant's gonna be over here. You can cover this up and it won't hurt it. It will actually start to root in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so, and it will turn. You can manipulate it to being where you want it, which is kind of fun. So there's certain ones that we get in here at the nursery that they just grow so quickly that in this little teeny pot, they're like on the floor like next week. So I'm like, so you gotta have to figure out how to plant them to actually, to use them, and to know how a plant works certain plants you just can't cover it up like that, but a succulent you can plant it on the left and it grows to the right, and it's kind of cool. So yeah, okay.
Interesting.
So let's pull up half of the soil into here. So one neat thing with a plant is that when you start a plant up into new soil, the first thing it does is it tries to put down the roots. Once the roots are established and it feels that it's happy, then the plant grows and then it will start to bloom. If it takes a lot longer to get the roots to go, it will take longer for it to grow and a lot longer for it to bloom. And you were saying you had something on your desk, this guy.
Yeah, something similar to that.
Because it was like glued into the pot, like it probably had a harder time putting down roots and it had, so it just stayed there.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do to kind of fix this, and I use this stuff all the time, it's called biotone. When I first started working here, it smells really bad. And I'm like, I can't use this. But I've gotten to, I tried it at the last year. I made up 2 pots, one with it and one without. And biotone helps the roots start to go quicker. And it's all natural enzymes that make it grow. I could not believe how fast one bloomed and the other one was still like hanging out. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take this scoop and just kind of tuck it in here, and that will help go with those guys. And I just kind of mix it in. This doesn't get activated until the first time you actually water it, but then the smell goes away. But biotone.
It's said it first, biodome.
Oh, biotone. Biotone. It's really good for anything that you plant, house plants, trees, shrubs, annuals, anything that you want the roots to come down, which is kind of cool. So, okay. So now, did you guys put it in order like you would like to see it in the trough? Okay. So these guys are all, yep. Yeah, I go home and the dogs chase me because it's like, what is that? So these are all succulents. So it's full sun. I always look at what you're planting and think about where the plants actually came from, because you want to recreate that environment. So succulents, I always tell people, think of like Arizona, hot and dry. So they don't do well in shade and they hate being overwatered. So these guys I have out on my deck on the patio, and they just sit in that baking sun all day and they are just happy, happy, happy. If you look at like ferns, those guys grow in and under the tree canopy. So they get that filtered shade. It doesn't dry out very quickly down there, so it's nice and moist. So you want to keep it in that kind of environment. So anytime you look at a plant, you're like, okay, where did this come from? How, can I reenact where it came from so that it'd be the happiest? We get a lot of people come in and they're like, I really love this plant and it's a highlight plant, but I live in a dungeon and I can't, there's no light. I'm like, you can do artificial light, but it's still not going to be that same look. Sometimes your plants will sustain themselves, but they won't do anything beyond that point. So you want to have them as happy and healthy. So I always look at where they came from. Orchids, for a good example, live inside of trees, and they grow actually on the canopy of the trees. Florida, it rains 15 minutes every day. It's nice and humid. That's what they like. You get people coming in and they're like, oh, should I put the ice cubes in? I'm like, it's a tropical plant. It's never seen an ice cube in its life. So I put mine in the sink and I spray it down with bath water temperature, and they do so much better because you're recreating that feel. We put them in.
You certainly look happy.
Yeah, these guys are awesome. We got these in the other week. It's like, so like again with the succulents, less water, higher temperature does really well. Okay, we good in our.
And
So
you have an orchid class coming up too, right?
we do have the orchid class. It's an orchid arrangement,
For you.
which we are doing an orchid in the middle with all different little plants underneath. And so it's looking at what grows with them. There was a cool picture I saw the other day. Beautiful arrangement, but they put things together that did not work. And I'm like, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's not realistic. So we try to teach you guys what's realistic and what we can fudge once in a while. Okay, so what we're going to do is when you have like the 4-inch, you can make little pockets and put those down. Now, because this is so shallow, you can take some of the root systems down and kind of pull it apart and go up. You don't really want to go too much higher than the edge of it, but we're going to put stone, no glue, just some stone, and that will kind of hold things in place too. But so you can kind of, certain ones, so put in the big 4-inch first. And then what we're going to do, we'll start filling in. Ooh, these guys are dry. You can go in. There's not a lot of room in here, but you can kind of go, a little to the left, a little to the right. But so with that one, I would go a little bit, because if you look at how high that is,
Yeah.
I would.
further down.
Yep, and just kind of tickle the roots, and you can break that apart a little bit. Yeah. That really doesn't hurt it, and with the biotone, it really makes it happy and healthy.
Better.
Yeah, there you go.
Sits a little lower.
There, yeah. So start off with just a 4-inch first. Yep. Yep, just the big dudes.
ones?
Yep. Because then what we're going to do is we'll fill in
Okay.
and then be able to recreate a little nook.
Would this one root in if I put it in beside it?
Yeah, we'll do that right at the end. Yeah, it's awesome. So whenever you get like
Root in from the beginning?
a little leaf, these guys are incredible. You can actually leave it on the table, and right at the base where it broke off, you'll start to see new little leaves form. And that's actually what the new plant will be. Once, like this leaf will never grow, but it will put down roots and a new plant will start right at the base.
I have one in my bathroom
Yeah.
like that now.
There's some plants that we have, it's called donkey tail, and they're like cute little teardrops all together. You look at it wrong and they fall off. Well, you can grab those and throw them right back in the soil and they will root just like that. And it's almost like a zucchini plant. You just start giving those plants away because they root so easily that at a certain point you're like, yep, I have enough, I don't need any more. Would you like some? And then your neighbor's like, yeah, I'm good, I don't, no more. So once the big dudes are in, you can kind of fill in with the soil and plant those guys in. And you want to leave just a little bit of the lip of the container. And you always want to make sure that you fill in all the gaps. A really good way of doing that is to kind of tap it, and it gets the air pockets out of there, which is nice. Because if there's air pockets, that means that it will dry out quicker than where you planted. Like if you water in one section and there's an air pocket somewhere, it will actually dry you a lot quicker. Yep, there you go. Cool. Okay. So now with your 4, you can kind of. Oh, I'll have to. When we're done, I'll show you one piece that I made. It's jam packed.
Awesome.
So what you can do with the next 4-inch is you can actually use your finger and just make a little hole and plug that right in. And like where that guy is, let me.
Come on more.
Yep. So where would you want to see him?
Right here.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the downside.
Down.
I'm gonna have to go like that.
Yep. So put your hole right over here.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry for the reach. There you go. Yep.
No BO. Okay.
That's why we do the class at 11. The fun thing about the jade, the more sun, those become more and more red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was this little one in there that.
Yeah, just hold it to the side, and then when we are all done. Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what's this over here? You must have been tucked in the middle.
Cool. Yeah, this is one of my favorites because it puts on like the rosettes and it just keeps, yeah.
I was nervous that they were going to be too close together with that one bent down, but
I think mine might be a little close.
So when you have everything in place, I got stone here. Yeah, that's cool that you got the flower like going way across.
yeah, it's kind of got a mind of its own there.
This is like something you would see like under the sea. It's like,
That's exactly what it looks like.
You want to come out, don't you?
sometimes, there you go. So you can take,
That one's funky too. I like that.
this is a type of aloe vera.
Oh, it's out?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So, now when you get everything planted, kind of push down on the soil, stamp all the loose soil out. Then we're going to dress coat this guy with these stones.
Oh my god, I just wanted to turn it a little tiny bit so I could mat it down. Hey, look at it. I got one of these guys too, though.
Yeah, there you go. It's pretty.
He's in the wrong spot. In there first. I'm gonna move over a little.
This kind of builds up the heat as well, which is nice. It keeps that. And what you can do is just grab and just do a whole pile of it and just plop it right in.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Okay.
just like that. There you go.
So like a spilling it everywhere.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just rocks, right?
Yeah, are you going to close off this spot?
That's what it feels like.
So this is something that I made for the retail
Oh
store.
my goodness.
But this guy here, I used some of the perennial succulents, like we were talking earlier.
Oh, are these all annuals?
So these are all for the indoor house plant, yep. Which can go outside all summer and then brought in for the winter. These guys are probably zone 7, 8, 9 that we're working with in your troughs. But like this guy here, I think there's like 15 little guys in here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 large, 4-inch. And when this grows in, they work around each other and they just keep filling in, which is kind of cool. But
How thick do you
So-
make your rock?
it's just a top dressing, so it's not really, it's for pretty. Yep.
Okay.
Instead of the thin, even layer.
Yeah, you can do sand, you can do marbles, you can do other stones. There's so much you can put on top. I just kind of like this stone here.
Yeah, that's fine. I just grabbed it.
Yep. And like with the stone too up on top, it keeps this moisture in a little bit. So like on these guys, you might not even need to water this, but like every other week. Yeah, it's
My kind of plant.
very, very tolerant. You can really see how each leaf structure is really thick. And if it needs water, you'll start to see that it is almost gets veiny, where you can see where they're calling for a little bit of attention. But these guys, you can add Osmocote. It's a slow release fertilizer, and it lasts about 3 to 4 months. That's all these guys really need.
If I put more rock in between this or just leave it outside?
I would leave that, just so it has a little bit of breathing. And this is I like these rocks because you get these wet. You can spritz these guys, but look how the color changes on that and brings out all the colors. And also, we'll do this each one. This gets all the soil out that we got on top of the plant. And so the guy that you're right there, he'll get nice and large, yeah. And he'll just,
Sprouting out that one?
nope, they will actually, they'll grow all up and around each other, yeah, yeah. You know, and this should last you, probably for a year, year and a half. Good care, you might get a couple years out of this until it runs out of space for roots. And you'll kind of see the plants actually getting pushed up and out of this. But, yeah. Cool. Now, did you put your little baby in there?
Yeah, it's in the corner
Cool.
here because I've
Awesome.
got a little pot at home you can go in and live.
There you go. So, what do you think?
Very good. Looks nice.
Yeah.
I love how different they all are too.
My favorite thing is to take one of the classes and everyone gets the same plants, same container, and how different everything goes out. It's like we do the terrarium workshop that's coming up, and even that, it's the same structure, same plants, and just the creativity that you can do with those guys. We went for a walk last week for class, so and gathered all sorts of stuff out of the trees. But,
That one's kind of like, it might still.
Another one I'll tuck it in.
Andrew plucked one off of the one in the back there when he was bored one day, and I was like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm like, don't worry, it's gonna grow new things." What? And it did. He said, "Don't pluck the leaves off."
So, any questions?
Do you know the names of all of the ones we have?
That's a whole other question.
Identifying them online is tough.
Jade is a type of jade. The rest of them, it's like I'm not 100% sure of what, because we get them in as a mixed group.
Okay.
And one of the biggest things too is that we growers of these guys, if you follow on Instagram, there's succulents from California that huge classes and things like that. And people are putting two together and coming up with a new one. Well, they are reproducing so quickly, and there's such a different variety of this, like almost the similar plant. They've almost stopped naming a lot of them. So they do like family names because it's a cross of this and this and this. And they're like, oh, well, look, this one's a little bit more blue than the cousin that's a little bit more on the green side. So we even get them in here, and it's like mixed succulents. So little by little, we're trying to get the names of them in. But it gets a little difficult to start getting all the names of these. But yeah, so. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank